Ladies and gentlemen, it is a rare gift, the experience of love, a force that can mend, strengthen, and sometimes, though paradoxically, break us. But in the realm of Stoic philosophy, we find an intriguing truth. Held by him, healed by love, is not a phrase that evokes a passive submission to fate, but rather an invitation to recognize and wield love as a source of strength, virtue, and wisdom. Love is a complex and profound force, one that transcends simple emotions and actions. From a Stoic perspective, love is not merely a fleeting sensation that we feel in response to another person's behavior. Rather, it is a vital component of virtue, guided by reason and grounded in wisdom. The Stoics viewed love as an essential force, one that should be cultivated deliberately and understood deeply. It is not something that overtakes us, but something that we nurture and control within ourselves, shaping it through the choices we make and the values we uphold. In traditional thought, love is often seen as an intense emotional response, something that comes over us, sweeping us off our feet and leaving us in a state of vulnerability and ecstasy. However, for the Stoics, love is more than just a passion that blinds us or leads us into irrational behavior. The Stoics were keen on fostering emotional resilience, and they approached love as they did all emotions, through the lens of reason. In their view, the ability to love was not a sign of weakness or dependency. Instead, it was a sign of strength and virtue when it was exercised with wisdom and self-control. For the Stoics, love is rooted in the fundamental virtues that govern a well-lived life: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. True love, from this perspective, is not governed by uncontrollable desires or fleeting pleasures. It is instead grounded in virtue, reason, and a sense of duty toward the well-being of others. The Stoic philosopher Seneca, for example, often spoke about the importance of loving others in a way that aligns with rational thought and moral principles. He suggested that love should not be driven by a desire for gratification, but by a desire to help others grow, learn, and achieve their highest potential. When the Stoics speak of love, they do not dismiss or ignore its emotional aspects, but they suggest that emotions should be regulated and directed by reason. Love, in the Stoic sense, is not passive or passive-aggressive. It is active, purposeful, and mindful. It is about understanding the nature of the other person, appreciating their virtues, and acting in ways that contribute to the flourishing of both oneself and the loved one. This kind of love is not self-centered or possessive, but is rooted in a profound respect for the other person's autonomy and their own journey toward virtue. Another key aspect of love from the Stoic perspective is that it is not contingent upon external circumstances. The Stoics were acutely aware of the nature of external events, their unpredictability, their transience, and their inability to provide lasting fulfillment. A Stoic would not allow their sense of love to be undermined or dictated by the uncontrollable forces of life. Instead, they would approach love in a way that maintains their inner peace, regardless of external conditions. This does not mean that Stoics are indifferent or cold. On the contrary, they believe that love can and should be expressed warmly and compassionately, but it is not dependent on external validation or fulfillment. The Stoic view of love offers a level of emotional maturity that encourages resilience in the face of disappointment, growth through challenges, and contentment in the midst of impermanence. Love, in this view, does not come with expectations that others must behave in a certain way to fulfill our emotional needs. It is, rather, a commitment to acting in a way that nurtures the other person's well-being, while also upholding one's own sense of virtue and personal integrity. Thus, love, when understood through Stoic principles, becomes a powerful force for personal growth, emotional regulation, and the pursuit of a virtuous life. It is not a passive experience but an active choice, one that requires self-discipline, understanding, and a commitment to living according to reason. By choosing to love wisely, we not only foster deeper, more meaningful relationships, but we also cultivate a more profound sense of inner peace and emotional balance. Love, then, is not just an emotion to be felt, but a practice to be lived, shaped by the values that guide us toward virtue and wisdom. In Stoic philosophy, one of the most profound teachings is that external events and circumstances are beyond our control. What we can control, however, is our response to these external forces. This principle extends to love as well, and understanding this dynamic allows us to approach relationships with a Stoic mindset, grounded in resilience and emotional equilibrium. When it comes to love, the Stoics would tell us that while we cannot control the actions or feelings of others, we do have the power to govern our own reactions, thoughts, and emotions. Love, then, becomes an opportunity to practice virtue, rather than a situation in which we are helplessly swept away by the whims of another person or by the unpredictable nature of life itself. The first realization that comes with this Stoic approach is that love, as a shared experience, is not entirely within our control. We cannot dictate how others feel, how they behave, or whether they reciprocate our affections. To think otherwise would be to set ourselves up for frustration, disappointment, and unnecessary emotional suffering. This acceptance of the uncontrollability of others' actions leads to a healthier, more balanced understanding of love, one that allows us to love freely without becoming attached to outcomes. In a Stoic sense, love is not a transaction based on conditions, but an unconditional force that we can choose to offer without expecting a particular result. Furthermore, the Stoic view teaches us that our peace of mind should never be contingent on another person's actions. In relationships, this can often be a challenging realization, as many people place their emotional well-being in the hands of their partners, friends, or family. This dependency creates a fragile emotional state, one that can easily be disturbed by the actions of others. If someone we love behaves in a way that disappoints us or causes us pain, we may feel as though we've lost control of ourselves, and our emotional state becomes entirely governed by their behavior. In contrast, a Stoic understanding of love acknowledges that while we may feel hurt or disappointed, these emotions are within our power to manage. Our ability to respond to such situations with wisdom, temperance, and understanding is what ultimately allows us to maintain our peace. The Stoics also remind us that life is inherently unpredictable. The relationships we cherish today may not look the same tomorrow. People change, circumstances evolve, and situations shift. When we become too attached to a particular version of a relationship or the way we want love to unfold, we set ourselves up for suffering. Relationships, just like everything else in life, are impermanent. While this truth may sound disheartening at first, it is actually liberating. It allows us to let go of rigid expectations and approach our loved ones with a sense of gratitude rather than a sense of entitlement. By recognizing that we cannot control the longevity or permanence of a relationship, we free ourselves from the need to force things to stay the same. We can appreciate love for what it is in the present, without needing it to be something it may never become. Moreover, the Stoics advocate for the cultivation of emotional resilience, which is crucial in understanding love's impermanence. When we are attached to specific outcomes, such as the expectation that someone will always be there for us, or that a relationship will remain unchanging, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Stoic love, on the other hand, is not dependent on whether or not the person we love behaves in a certain way. Instead, it is about remaining steady in our feelings and actions, regardless of external circumstances. This approach helps us to love in a way that is free of desperation or dependency, and it enables us to continue loving even in difficult times, without relying on the relationship itself for our happiness or emotional stability. This is not to say that Stoic love is cold or detached. Quite the opposite. It is a love that is fully engaged, compassionate, and deep. But it is not contingent on external validation or the behavior of the other person. It is a love that is expressed without expectation and received with grace, understanding that while we may not control the actions of others, we can always control our own responses. Through this lens, love becomes a practice of virtue, a way to express our highest qualities, patience, kindness, and wisdom, without being at the mercy of life's unpredictability. By accepting that we cannot control others, we are able to approach love with a clarity and peace that allows us to navigate relationships with calm, grace, and strength. A central principle of Stoic philosophy is the recognition that everything in life is impermanent. This extends not only to material possessions, careers, and external achievements, but also to relationships and emotions. In love, this idea of impermanence offers a profound opportunity for growth and healing. The Stoics understood that no relationship, no matter how deep or meaningful, could remain unchanged forever. People grow, circumstances shift, and life inevitably introduces challenges and hardships. However, it is in our response to this impermanence that we can find true peace, resilience, and healing. In the context of love, the Stoics advise us to accept the transient nature of relationships. When we understand that nothing in life stays the same, we are less likely to become overly attached to an idealized version of love, one that remains constant and unchanging. This attachment to permanence can often lead to suffering because we are inevitably faced with the truth that relationships evolve, people change, and sometimes we must part ways. When we resist this natural flow of life, we increase our emotional suffering. By accepting the impermanence of love, we allow ourselves to experience it more fully and with greater appreciation, understanding that each moment is precious because it is fleeting. This acceptance of impermanence in love does not mean that we should be indifferent or detached from those we care about. On the contrary, the Stoic approach to love encourages us to engage deeply, but without clinging to an expectation of forever. Relationships are meant to be lived in the present, with full awareness that they may not last as we envision them. This mindset frees us from the unrealistic desire to control outcomes and instead opens us up to loving more fully and authentically without the pressure of permanence weighing on our hearts. Moreover, the Stoics teach that the impermanence of life can be a source of strength and healing. By accepting that suffering and loss are part of the human experience, we are better able to navigate the inevitable difficulties that come with love. It is not the absence of pain that leads to healing, but our ability to face pain with resilience and wisdom. When we experience the loss of a loved one, a change in a relationship, or the uncertainty that often accompanies love, our response to these challenges determines our emotional well-being. The Stoic mindset helps us view these moments not as catastrophes, but as opportunities for growth and self-improvement. True healing, according to Stoicism, comes from within. It is not about trying to prevent pain or avoid loss, but about learning to accept these realities, and finding inner strength through them. Love is healing not because it shields us from the harshness of life, but because it teaches us how to respond with virtue in the face of life's inevitable changes. Love, in this sense, becomes a practice of resilience, allowing us to remain grounded and centered even when faced with the uncertainty and impermanence of relationships. Additionally, the Stoic view of impermanence teaches us to cherish the time we have with those we love. Knowing that everything in life is subject to change encourages us to value the present moment, to engage with those around us with a full heart, and to make the most of the relationships we are fortunate to have. This approach shifts our focus from an unhealthy attachment to an idealized future to a deep appreciation of the present. Love, then, becomes something to be embraced and experienced fully, not something to be hoarded or clung to desperately. In accepting the impermanence of love, we also learn to let go with grace when the time comes. Whether it is the end of a romantic relationship, the loss of a friend, or the changing nature of familial bonds, the Stoic philosophy encourages us to let go without bitterness, regret, or resistance. We understand that all relationships have their seasons, and each one serves a unique purpose in our journey. By acknowledging the impermanence of love, we are better able to release it when it is time, allowing us to heal, grow, and move forward with greater wisdom. Thus, the Stoic acceptance of impermanence in love is not a call to avoid connection or to shut off our hearts. Instead, it is an invitation to love more freely, fully, and deeply, without the burden of unrealistic expectations. It teaches us to embrace love for what it is in the present moment, knowing that its fleeting nature makes it all the more precious. Through this understanding, we can heal from loss, grow through adversity, and find peace in the ever-changing tides of life. The healing power of love, especially when viewed through the lens of Stoic philosophy, is profound. It is important to recognize that healing, in the Stoic sense, is not about avoiding pain or erasing the scars of our experiences. Rather, it is about learning to understand, accept, and transcend the pain that inevitably comes with life. Love has the remarkable ability to provide the support, compassion, and understanding necessary for emotional healing, not because it removes suffering, but because it helps us navigate it with greater strength and clarity. At its core, love offers a sense of connection and belonging, two powerful tools in the Stoic approach to life. The Stoics valued the role of human relationships, particularly those grounded in mutual respect and virtue. Love, as the Stoics would suggest, is not merely an emotion driven by desire or attachment, but a form of support that enables both individuals in a relationship to grow and heal together. When love is founded on virtue, it becomes a stabilizing force, one that helps us find resilience and balance even in the most challenging times. For the Stoics, healing is not about avoiding adversity, but about accepting it as an inevitable part of the human experience. Life will inevitably bring pain, whether from loss, betrayal, or personal failure, and love, when rooted in wisdom, helps us understand that this pain is not the end, but part of the path toward growth and inner strength. In a romantic relationship, for instance, the presence of love provides a safe space to explore vulnerabilities and confront emotional wounds. It becomes a tool through which we learn to navigate hardship with grace, patience, and an unwavering commitment to our own and our partner's flourishing. The healing power of love lies in its ability to offer support while also encouraging us to confront our own weaknesses and embrace the lessons that come with suffering. The Stoic idea of *amor fati*, the love of fate, further illuminates how love can heal by guiding us to accept life as it is, without resistance or bitterness. Love, in this sense, becomes a force that helps us surrender to the flow of life, even when it leads us into difficult or painful situations. By embracing the impermanence and challenges of life, we free ourselves from the need to control every outcome or avoid hardship. Love allows us to find peace in the present moment, without lamenting what has been lost or worrying about what may be lost in the future. Healing through love also involves understanding the role of forgiveness, both of others and of ourselves. When we love with the wisdom of Stoicism, we are reminded that holding on to grudges, anger, or resentment only weighs us down, preventing us from healing emotionally. True healing occurs when we let go of these negative emotions and choose instead to act with compassion, understanding, and acceptance. This does not mean ignoring wrongdoings or excusing harmful behavior, but rather recognizing that our peace of mind is not dependent on the actions of others. By forgiving, we release the power that past hurts have over us, allowing ourselves the freedom to heal and move forward. Moreover, love's healing power is also seen in its ability to encourage personal growth. In a loving relationship, we often find ourselves challenged to become better versions of ourselves, not because love demands perfection, but because it fosters an environment where personal growth is supported and nurtured. In this sense, love is transformative. It helps us confront our own flaws, guiding us towards self-improvement. The Stoics taught that true happiness and tranquility come not from external possessions or achievements, but from inner growth, from cultivating virtues like wisdom, courage, and self-discipline. Love, when seen through this Stoic lens, provides the space for both partners to work on their individual growth while also growing together as a unit. This mutual encouragement toward becoming better versions of ourselves is a profound form of healing, as it enables both individuals to confront and overcome their own weaknesses with patience, kindness, and shared effort. The Stoic understanding of love, then, is not just about emotional healing in the traditional sense. It is about using love as a powerful tool for developing resilience, wisdom, and emotional strength. Love helps us face adversity with grace, accept our imperfections, and cultivate a sense of peace in the midst of life's challenges. Through love, we are reminded that healing is not a destination, but a continuous process of growth, acceptance, and transformation. It is this ongoing process that allows us to heal in a deeper, more meaningful way, not by erasing the past, but by using it to shape a better future. The Stoics believed that true strength and emotional resilience arise from within, through the mastery of our own thoughts, emotions, and actions. Self-mastery, one of the central tenets of Stoic philosophy, is crucial not only to personal well-being, but also to the quality of our relationships, including love. In the context of love, self-mastery means understanding that our emotional reactions, desires, and attachments are within our control, and by exercising this control, we can cultivate a love that is not defined by emotional volatility or dependence, but by wisdom, balance, and mutual respect. In relationships, it is easy to become caught up in the intense emotions that often accompany love. Feelings of joy, passion, or even jealousy can sweep us away, leading us to react impulsively or make decisions based on temporary emotions. However, the Stoics urge us to recognize that these emotions, though natural, are not always the best guides for action. Love that is driven by unchecked emotion can lead to dependency, possessiveness, or the desire to control others. On the other hand, love that is grounded in self-mastery allows us to experience deep connection and intimacy while maintaining our sense of autonomy and emotional stability. By regulating our emotions, we do not suppress them but transform them into a source of strength and wisdom, allowing us to love freely without losing our sense of self. Self-mastery in love is also about not letting our happiness depend on external circumstances or the actions of others. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we cannot control the behavior of others, but we can control how we respond to their actions. In relationships, this is particularly significant because it helps us avoid the trap of emotional dependency, where we rely on the other person's affection, approval, or behavior to validate our worth. Love, from a Stoic perspective, is not about needing someone else to complete us or fulfill our emotional needs. Rather, it is about offering our love freely and without expectation. It is an active choice to care for and support another, but not at the expense of our own inner peace or well-being. This sense of self-mastery is crucial when it comes to navigating the challenges that inevitably arise in any relationship. Whether it's miscommunication, disagreements, or moments of personal doubt, self-mastery helps us remain composed and thoughtful, rather than reacting in haste or frustration. The Stoics taught that we should approach challenges with a clear mind, not clouded by impulsive emotions or knee-jerk reactions. In the context of love, this means being able to respond with patience, understanding, and empathy, even when things are difficult. Rather than allowing negative emotions like anger or fear to control us, we can choose to act with kindness, rationality, and emotional resilience. Moreover, self-mastery in love is also about knowing when to let go and when to hold on. Love, as the Stoics saw it, is not about clinging to another person out of fear or desire, but about choosing to love with wisdom. Sometimes, this means knowing when it is time to part ways, whether in a romantic relationship or a friendship, when the relationship no longer aligns with our values or personal growth. The Stoics did not see love as a static force, but as something dynamic that must evolve in accordance with our own growth and the growth of those we love. Being able to let go when necessary without regret or resentment is a sign of emotional maturity and self-mastery. It is not about abandoning love, but about recognizing that sometimes the most loving action is to release attachment and move forward with grace. The ability to love with self-mastery also allows us to appreciate love in its fullest sense, free from the distortions of ego, neediness, or control. In this kind of love, we are able to love not because we expect anything in return, but because we recognize that love is a virtue in itself, one that contributes to our own growth and the growth of those we love. It becomes a source of strength, not weakness, because it is rooted in wisdom and understanding, not in emotional impulses or external validation. Love, therefore, becomes a tool for self-improvement, a way to practice the virtues of patience, self-control, and kindness. It is an opportunity to refine ourselves emotionally and spiritually through our interactions with others while maintaining our own inner harmony and peace. Self-mastery in love is ultimately a journey toward emotional independence, where we are able to love deeply and fully without losing our sense of self. It is through this mastery that we cultivate a love that is not conditional nor based on need, but one that is empowering and transformative, both for ourselves and for those we love. Through wisdom and self-control, we are able to experience love in its most profound and fulfilling form, one that enriches our lives and nurtures our growth, while remaining grounded in the virtue of emotional resilience. The Stoics believed that the ultimate goal of life was to live in accordance with nature, cultivating virtue and wisdom in every aspect of our lives. This belief extends to our understanding of love and relationships. In the Stoic framework, love is not something that exists solely to fulfill personal desires or to provide temporary happiness, but rather it is a reflection of the deeper principles of virtue and moral integrity. Love, when aligned with virtue, serves as a profound tool for personal development and the pursuit of a meaningful life. This concept is integral to the Stoic vision of love as something that heals, guides, and enriches us, not through fleeting emotional satisfaction, but by shaping us into wiser, stronger individuals. The first step toward understanding this form of love is to recognize that love, from a Stoic perspective, is inherently selfless. In a world often consumed by selfish desires and expectations, Stoic love stands apart by its focus on what is best for both the individual and the other person involved. Love in this sense is not about possessing or controlling the other person, nor is it about trying to derive personal satisfaction at their expense. It is about valuing the well-being and growth of the other, respecting their autonomy, and supporting them in their pursuit of virtue. This type of love transcends the limits of self-interest and opens us to a deeper, more meaningful connection with others. Furthermore, Stoic love is rooted in the idea of duty and responsibility. The Stoics did not view love as something that comes and goes with the whims of emotional impulses. Instead, love is a choice and a commitment to act with care and respect toward others, regardless of the challenges we may face. To love in a Stoic sense is to be devoted to another's growth, to act in their best interest even when it requires sacrifice or effort on our part. It is through this commitment to duty that love becomes a transformative force, one that shapes us into better individuals, helping us to cultivate patience, humility, and self-discipline. Love, then, becomes not just a feeling but a practice, a way of living virtuously and embodying the moral principles that guide us. The Stoics also taught that the ultimate aim of love is not to seek personal pleasure, but to promote the flourishing of others. Love, understood in this way, is not based on the pursuit of immediate gratification or temporary fulfillment, but rather on the long-term goal of helping others become the best versions of themselves. When we love in accordance with virtue, we seek to nurture the growth of our partners, friends, and loved ones, helping them to achieve their fullest potential in both their personal and moral lives. This selfless love does not demand anything in return, but instead seeks to uplift and empower others. In addition to promoting the growth and well-being of others, Stoic love also requires an acceptance of the inherent limitations and impermanence of life. The Stoics were acutely aware that all things, relationships, feelings, and even life itself are temporary. Nothing is permanent, and to cling to the illusion of permanence is to set ourselves up for inevitable suffering. Love, from a Stoic perspective, is grounded in this understanding of impermanence. It is an invitation to love more deeply and freely, without the fear of loss or the desire to control outcomes. By accepting that love may not last forever, we are able to cherish each moment of connection without allowing the fear of separation or change to dictate how we act. This understanding of love as fleeting yet valuable allows us to engage with our relationships with a sense of peace, gratitude, and acceptance. Finally, the Stoic idea of love as aligned with virtue provides us with a framework for healing, particularly when love is tested by hardship. In relationships, difficulties will inevitably arise, whether in the form of miscommunication, conflict, or personal growth. The Stoic approach to love offers a way to navigate these challenges with grace and resilience. Instead of reacting with anger, frustration, or despair, we can choose to approach these challenges with patience, understanding, and the determination to grow together. Love, as the Stoics would have it, is not about avoiding difficulty, but about learning how to meet it with strength, wisdom, and virtue. It is through this approach that love becomes a source of healing, allowing us to overcome adversity and emerge stronger as individuals and as partners. In conclusion, love, when viewed through the Stoic lens, is not just an emotion to be experienced, but a practice to be cultivated. It is a love that transcends the ephemeral desires of the moment and instead focuses on the well-being and growth of others. By aligning love with virtue, the Stoics believed that we could create relationships that are both meaningful and enduring, ones that help us become better versions of ourselves while contributing to the flourishing of those we love. This form of love is not merely a source of joy, but a guide for living a life of purpose, wisdom, and moral integrity. It is a healing force, one that encourages us to rise above the challenges of life and grow together, fostering a deeper connection with others and with the values that shape our existence. In conclusion, the Stoic philosophy offers a profound and transformative perspective on love, one that challenges us to approach relationships not through the lens of fleeting emotions or external expectations, but through the cultivation of virtue, wisdom, and self-mastery. Love, as seen from a Stoic point of view, is a powerful force for healing, not by removing pain, but by teaching us how to navigate life's inevitable challenges with grace, resilience, and understanding. It calls us to love without attachment, to appreciate the impermanence of relationships, and to always act with the well-being of others in mind, all while maintaining our own emotional balance and peace. By embracing the Stoic principles of self-mastery and virtue, we come to understand that true love is not dependent on external circumstances, nor is it a mere source of temporary satisfaction. Instead, love rooted in wisdom helps us grow, heal, and evolve, both individually and in the relationships we nurture. It teaches us to love freely and fully, without expectation, and to find joy in the act of loving itself. Through the practice of love as guided by Stoic thought, we are invited to experience a deeper, more fulfilling connection with others, one that transcends the ordinary, embraces the impermanence of life, and fosters mutual growth and healing. In this way, love becomes not just a fleeting emotion, but a meaningful journey grounded in the wisdom of the Stoic tradition, where both the heart and mind are aligned in the pursuit of virtue and the flourishing of the human spirit.